afternoon. Welcome to our lovely intermediate advanced Pilates session today. Moving on from our flow and strength, we're going into more and more of the strength side of stuff. There still will be options to kind of feel the movement that you're doing and then to progress it to more of the strengthening version, but wanting to kind of really tap into our intermediate advanced kind of repertoire, although some of the classical stuff I probably wouldn't touch anyways, but the stuff I think can really still benefit us, we're going to do. So we're going to start standing and kind of condense our little warm-up that we did, just kind of try and get it in our head. You can go back to some of the other videos to kind of break down some of the sequences, but I do want to start with just a little bit that I did on Saturday, which is just kind of opening the chest. So I want you to just put your hands at your center, on your sternum, and just take a nice breath in. And as you breath out, just feel like you're opening up through the front of the chest, reaching out the arms to the side of the room, feeling that nice little fascial opening, and then come back to the heart center, the chest as you breathe in. So as you breathe out, opening those arms, doesn't have to be super crazy, just kind of feel that nice fascial opening and just feel where your arms need to be that feels good. Okay, so inhale and exhale, brushing across those arms, reaching out. And one more, breathing in. And kind of letting that sigh reach those arms out. Now you're going to come into a little bend. We're going to come more into kind of the tummy. So I want you to take a breath in as we kind of fold into a little mini ball and then reach out from the center of the chest, the center of the belly, and add a little bit of extension to this. So let's inhale into the center of ourselves and exhale, bursting out, right out to the side of the room. Open yourself up, inhale in. Little bend of the knees and exhale, bursting out. One more and in. So little squat and exhale out. Let's reach the arms up. Take a nice breath in. Exhale, dive forward, opening up the back of you, little bend in the knees. Roll up, sending the heels down, the body up, and take that nice breath in again. Inhale, lift. Exhale, dive forward, opening up the back of the body, feeling more of the fascial give. Send those heels down, the sit bones down, the tail down, all the way back up. And just have a moment here thinking about your standing posture before we go again. So as you come to this vertical position, I want you to think of your weight through your heels. I want you to think that the hips are stacked over the knees and the ankles, so we're not forward here. And that you have this sense of lift through the center of the body. So now take it up, find that place, and exhale, dive forward, little bend in the knees. Go as far as you feel comfortable to go. So if it feels a little bit tight for you in your low back or in the back of your legs, then don't go so far. Let's do one more of these. Exhale down. And roll back up. You have the option to go into our swinging now. So we inhale up and swing it down and catch. And swing it down and catch. So there's a little bit more bend in the hips now. It's almost like a swing squat if you guys have done this in our functional work. So I'm not going so much into flexion now. I'm trying to really move through the hips. So a few more. And then come back to center. Lovely. Let's go into our side positions. This time I want to step a little bit into this exercise and kind of progress it. So I'd like us to step to the right. Let's do our little Tai Chi push. And then add the pull coming back in, step the leg back in. So step to the left, push the arms to the left, little rotation, pull it back, step it back in. So stepping right, pushing right, feel that nice little inner thigh connection, pull, bring it in, step it back together. So we push over to that side that we're bending, we pull in with the legs like that, and as soon as I come into center, step it back together. Push those arms across. Feel the inner thighs. Pull, and really feel like you do actually have something that you're pushing against. So thinking about water maybe, grabbing a rope that's elastic, pulling it back. Let's do one more of each. Over and pull. And now this was in my head, so we'll see if it works in practice. So what I like to do is a little bit more of a hop, step. So we're gonna kind of step it across, the other leg goes back, I'm gonna push the energy away and over. So just a little bit more invigorating. You don't have to do that option. This is a little bit more of a functional patterns. So could we stop it now, decelerate, rather than letting it flow? 3, 2, and 1. And then come back together. Good, let's do our warrior. We're gonna add on to this. So the last 2 days we've been doing a nice little reach, coming back down. This time we're gonna come, after a few of them, down right to the floor, okay? So we're gonna have our hands not just come to the hips, we're gonna bring them down to the mat and add a little bit to this. So let's do the flow. Inhale up, exhale to the hips, then we're gonna go down to the floor. Now you can decide whether you're on either side of your leg or on the same side here on the inside, but when you do that, wiggle your back leg back a little bit more. And then the opposite hand stays on the ground. I'm gonna do a little bit of rotation. Then I want the knee to come down. We will get this, don't worry. And then I want you to do that reach again, coming back in. Now we gotta go back to get back up. So we come back down to the floor, we lift the leg, we come up to our hip, and then we reach to the sky, and then let's bring the legs back together. So I think it'd be really good if we do alternating with this. So step the leg back. So it's not gonna be super far here. We reach up, pull to the hip. From here, we go down to the floor. Slide that back leg back a little bit more. Opposite hand stays on the ground. And I just want you to do a little rotation like this rather than reaching your arm too much. Come down to the knee. Reach up again with a little pelvic tilt. So we're opening up that hip a little bit more. Come into the hip. And I'm going to go back down to the floor. Take that back leg up. Come to the hip. That's going to be a little bit harder now. And reach. Now it's even more intense. And then bring the leg back together. Hopefully you got that all. So step the other side. So we'll alternate each time we come back up. We're going to reach up to the sky. Exhale, pull it down, hollow the belly into the hip. Take the hands down to the floor. Slide the leg back a little bit more so you've got more space. Rotate. So the opposite hand is on the floor. You're rotating to your front leg. Lower the knee down. We're going to repeat the arms up to the hips, back to the floor. Hand goes down. Now the leg straightens. This is the hard part. Press into your front leg. Come to the hips. Reach up. And then as you pull in, let's step the leg together. Woo! Step it back. Other leg. So just keep alternating. Reaching up. And pull down. Hand down. Rotate the trunk. Slide that back leg back as you need to. Knee goes down to the floor. Reaching up with a pelvic tilt. Pulling down to the hip. Then I replace the hand down so I can bring that leg back up. Push through the floor, bring it to the hips. Hold. Reach to the sky. I'm getting warm. Bring it down, step it back together. That's quite hard when the leg's back that far, so be careful. Okay, and again, reach. I think this is our second set on the second side. Reach, pull down. Hand to the floor, opposite to the foot. Slide that back leg. Keep that tummy engaged, rotate. Knee goes down. Reach to the sky. Pull it into the hip. Hand goes back down. Reach that leg back. We didn't rotate again, but it might be nice. And then come to the hip, paw, reach to the sky, pull back in. Okay, we're gonna do one more time on each side because I think you just got it now. Reach back. You're going, no! Reaching up, pulling down. Hand to the floor, slide that leg back. Rotate the trunk. Feel like you're rotating that upper back. Knee goes down. Tilt the pelvis, reach up. Pull the hands to the hips. Hand goes back down, leg goes straight up. Up to the hip, balance. Reach to the sky. Pull the arms in, pull the legs in nice and tall. Hopefully that was a little bit better. Last one, I promise. And down, reach, lift, and pull. Hand goes down, slide that leg back. Rotate the trunk, knee goes down. Tilt the pelvis up, reach the arms, nice big hip opener. Pull it to the hip. Hand goes down, straighten that back leg, give it a little breather. Both hands come to the hip to balance. Reach the arms up, pull the legs in as the arms come in. Woo! And take off whatever layers of clothing you might need to take off, which is me. Awesome. So hopefully that felt good. We're going to come to all fours. So let's just really be kind to our wrists here, making sure when we're doing these weight-bearing positions, we feel very elastic. Let's take our weight back to the feet a few times. Let the hands arrive very lightly. Feel you're very elastic with your muscles all the way up your arm. And feel that you spiral outwards to support up through the shoulders. Hug the belly, hug the ribs, and we're going to lengthen, and you should feel your core come on. So watch you not hunched or too dipped in the low back, nice and soft and neutral. So I want you to press down into the right arm, rotating gently to the left. Come back down and rotate the other way. So similar kind of upper body position to that little lunge. So march, rotate. Feel when you're rotating that the belly is staying connected. So your transverse muscles are nicely on. And every time you come back, check, could you lengthen anywhere? The low back, in the pelvis. So just do a few more. Keeping nice and lifted out of the wrist. So you're lifted out of the forearm. Just do one more on each side. It's almost like I'm lifting myself out of the arm, pushing the body up. And then just have a little breather for your wrists. Okay, now we're going to stabilize the arms and work through the legs. So I want you to keep really open through the front and back of the chest. Feel the shoulders are nicely on your back and that you're not super dipped into your low back. So I've got that connection now. Now let your one leg press into the ground. Let the other knee just lift a little bit. I'm keeping my toes on the ground. So I'm melting one leg down into the floor, letting the other leg come up gently. So it's just a little march of your legs. So one half of the pelvis will come up higher than the other half. Now, if you can coordinate it, whichever leg is going down, the opposite arm goes down, and the arm and the leg that are lifted come up together. Let's reach, connecting from the center out, and come into your cross-touch, elbow to knee, opening up the back body, and then open the front body as you reach, and close the back body as you come in. Just do one more. Reach, just be kind to this supporting arm. Keep checking in with it. And then sweet relief, because even that felt quite challenging. Okay, so now melt into the arm that you were working out and in, and the opposite leg. Hover the knee, hover the hand, and reach, opening the front of you. Cross touch, feel from shoulder to bum. You're opening up diagonally, hip to pec or armpit, and then bum to shoulder blade. One more time. Hip to pec, bum to shoulder blade, and then come into a little shell. Come back up. So that's just working our little diagonal, so we're ready to come into some of our supine work. So we're going to lie on the back. If you normally use a head block, please use that, or a towel. But try not to prop yourself up too high, where your neck is kind of forced forward. So we're just going to work our little pelvic clocks, and then actually we're going to take the block away as we articulate into some bridging. So just for the first bit, just take a few breaths to lengthen yourself and to really picture kind of the fascia, you stay down, the fascia from the back of the head to the back of the pelvis, okay? So there's a big elastic band that attaches to the base of the neck, goes all the way down to the sacrum and actually runs down your hamstrings and into your calves. So I want you to think of that back line of fascia as we roll the pelvis. So as you tilt the pelvis 12, you're kind of lengthening the tissue at the back of you. And as you roll to 6, we're lengthening the tissue a little bit at the front. I like to think of kind of rib cage to pubic bone here. And then kind of scooping your sacrum kind of down and towards the ceiling a little bit as you roll to 12. But it's not forceful, okay? Because I can push my low back down, and that has a very different effect than if I think of my sacrum moving away from my head and getting this scooping feeling, and then also getting this nice lengthened feeling through the front. So just do that a few more times, feeling that nice rocking. Maybe thinking of your pelvic halves if you're finding that you're working a little bit too much of your low back and the tissue of your back, then kind of focus on the pelvic halves, or maybe focus on the front. Okay, now take your head block away, bring your feet a little bit closer to you. And as you start to roll to 12, I don't want you to do it to the maximum. I just want, like, I don't know, the first few degrees of 12. Press into your feet. And then as you go up higher, your pelvis slowly comes into more 12. Okay? So it's not like we get to 12 and then we come up. It's like we're slowly still moving in towards 12 as the pelvis comes up into your bridge. Now on the way down, you're going to lengthen that big band you felt at the back of your head all the way down to the tail. So it's almost like you're letting your spine rest into the hammock of your back body. So melt into the feet, a little 12. It's like you just tease it a little bit. Melt into the feet and then continue to fall towards 12 as your feet melt down and the front of the hips are allowed to open. It's not really open because open would be that way, but the leg and the pelvis moving away from one another. So that feels a little bit tight for me today, so don't push it if you feel the same as me. Slowly lengthening. I'm kind of thinking of melting the front of my spine down into the back of the spine. Oh, it feels nice. Inhale at the bottom. Exhale, little 12, melt the feet. Continue to fall towards 12. And maybe halfway, if you feel a little bit tight, take one hip a little bit higher than the other. So we're just opening up kind of the front of the hip and thigh on one side more. We should feel that bum on that side kind of work a little bit more. And then as you come down the lower side. So I'm going to go down kind of the one side of the body. And then come back to the center, maybe just do the halfway, and then come up the other side. So as you get halfway, now you're still falling to 12. What you don't want to do is start going into hyperextension. So I'm now leading with the other leg. So that hip is slight, that's the tighter one. That hip is slightly leading, the glutes on that side are connecting, and then come down the lower lane of your body. Come back to center, roll a little bit 12, come halfway, and again, lead with that first hip, tilting the pelvis towards 12 as you go. Okay, so we really want to connect underneath the leg, from the bum to the hamstrings. Oh, so weak. And then laying down the opposite side of your spine. And come up halfway, slightly 12, more 12 as you come up. Okay, and that stops the low back from taking over. So I'm in my other hip again. You guys should really be feeling the sacrum is still going out and under slightly. Oh, my bum's getting fatigued. Let's do one more on each side. Tilt a little bit to 12. Lead with that one hip. And maybe bring your hand up and along your bum cheeks and into your hamstrings. Coach where you want it to connect to. And lower down. Okay, so we want to override the low back. One more time on that other side. And articulate back down. Cool. Now we're going to come back through the middle. See if it feels a little bit better. Lengthen the low back. Now we're going to press the arms down into the floor. And I'm going to press my right arm and my left foot down. Just have a moment there. Right arm, left foot. Float the other arm and leg up. But try and keep your bridge. Okay, then the opposite side. Left arm, right foot. Oh, this one wants to drop. So your challenge, everyone, is to not drop your bum. Now you might want to give it a little rest here. Woo! Come back up again. Open through the hips, lengthen the sacrum. Be really clear. You're not clenching your bum, but you're in the back of the legs. So we did right arm, left foot first. Float the other leg up. Oh, feels really hard today, but good. Okay, if you need a little rest in the middle, that's great. I'm going to take it one more time. To the top. Right arm, left foot, reach. Oh. Left arm, right foot, reach. Tabletop arms. Oh my goodness. And fold it in. Oh. Hopefully you felt that. Maybe I'm just feeling a little bit weak today. It's good, good, good. And then just stretch it out, opening up the whole of you. And we're going to now work the upper half. Okay, so we're going to go into our ab prep articulations. So what I'd like you to do is to just take your hands behind your head. And if it feels okay to take your legs to tabletop, but really happy tabletop, okay? So we're not holding the front of the hips, we're really coming into here. So what I want you to do is think of that big band of fascia from the back of your head. We're gonna peel up, and you're gonna think a little bit of your tail going up at the same time. So I'm gonna bring my head towards my knees, and I want you to see if you can try and get your pelvis off the ground as well. And then lay the pelvis down, then lay the head down. Okay, might not feel very big for you, but, and also don't strain the neck. So just try and go where it feels like the back of you is giving. So roll the head, peel. You kind of have to melt your ribs down and melt your breastbone down. And then the legs come towards you, and I'm thinking my sacrum peeling off the floor. Woo! And then roll the pelvis back down, roll the head down. So hopefully you felt that. Healing up. Okay, if you feel like your neck wants to pull forward, you give it back to your hands. Feel the ribs going down, the breastbone going down. One more time. Legs toward you, peel the tail up. Oh. And release. And then lower the legs down. Now we're just going to focus on the upper half. So rolling, peeling up, melting the ribs down, the breastbone down. And then peel back along the mat to come down. See how my elbows are angled a little bit around so I can see them? And I want you to think of hugging your shoulder blades around your ribs. Roll down the spine. Roll the head, peel the upper back. Little inhale to stay. Exhale to come back down. Legs to tabletop. Now do the lower half only. And back down. So I want to try and work from the back of the body lengthening to curl the body up. But notice if your shoulders start tensing or your neck starts straining. So even if it's just a little bit of that bottom of the pelvis kind of curling up, that's good, that's fine. Okay, settle the pelvis, curl up the upper body. This time you're going to reach your arms. And use your arms to maybe go a little bit further, but notice if you get strained in your neck. So that's a little bit too much for me. We're going to reach one leg forward, one leg towards you, and reach. Now that's a little bit too much for my neck today, so I'm going to bring my hands back behind the head. So you choose your adventure. You want to hold the shins. Keep feeling of curling up that upper back. Keeping that pelvis neutral. 3, 2, 1. Oh, and release. Now we're going to do the opposite way for a bit, and then we're going to come back and do a little bit more here, just because I don't want to do too much flexion. So let's come just into a little Sphinx position, and I just want you to use this to stretch the abdominals. So I just want you to feel like you're stretching your belly, stretching kind of where we just worked, which for me felt like the upper abdominals. So just lengthen the front body. Just be careful that when you're stretching, you're not falling into your low back. So try and find a position that really feels like you're going out and up. Okay, so now I want you to think of your fascia down the front of you. Okay, we're going to go into a little grasshopper position. Okay, so now we're thinking of the thighs. What I want you to try and do without losing your neutral here, okay, so you might need a little bit of 12, is to just bend one leg and then come back, kind of feeling the front of the thigh stretch. Okay, and then what we're going to do is reach the opposite arm around to touch, if it can. Okay, it might not touch. Now as I do that, I can easily go into the low back, so I'm trying not to. Oh, and I'm actually trying to maybe work a little bit more of the upper shoulder so that I open up through there more and less kind of into my back. So if you don't quite reach your foot, that's absolutely fine. But reach towards it, maybe know where it is, but keep checking the pelvis is neutral. So I'm stretching across kind of diagonally. Okay, one more. And then come back. Now, just peel a little bit forward and up. Nothing crazy, and then come back down. It should feel a little bit easier to go up this way after doing that. So it feels a little bit freer. And I can feel where the low back starts to want to crunch. Okay, so keep focusing on your legs, going down the mat and stretching the front of you. You can maybe think about pushing the mat forward with your hands and feeling your shoulder blades gently coming together on your back. Let's do one more. Nice and light, nothing crazy. And then come back down. Now we're going to try and do a little dart. Okay, so your arms are going to come down by your side. And tip of the nose on the ground. I want you to really focus on lengthening the low back and lengthening the back of the neck. And what we're going to do with our arms is let them elevate a little bit as they rotate around. So I want you to find the middle of your shoulder blades retracting. Now I have to really open through the front to find that. The hands might rotate around, but focus on the upper back. Okay, now as you do that, notice if your belly dropped. So I'm not really doing anything else but focusing on the shoulders. And then as the shoulders come back around, then you can kind of relax into the floor. So this time, lengthen yourself gently on the floor. Elevate the shoulders a little bit as you rotate them, because then they're going to rotate a little bit better. So the upper arm spirals all the way around until I feel my shoulder blades. That's really, really hard. And then can you lengthen your low back in the back of the neck to just come up a little bit. Hug your belly up. It doesn't need to be very big. And then rotate the arms back around and come back to the mat. So inhale. Exhale, elevate the shoulders a little bit, rotate them until you feel those middle of the shoulder blades working. Check your belly at that point, okay? Because it's usually when we retract, we drop the belly down. So I've got that transverse muscle kind of connecting all the way up to my ribs. And then I want to dart myself longer, maybe lift the arms up if appropriate, but I'm really focusing on my shoulders. The shoulder blades coming together. The front of the arms opening. You don't have to do many of these. Inhale. One more time. So you guys go to it. I want you to really feel that external rotation, that retraction of the shoulders by connecting that belly at the same time, darting that energy out. And then release all the way down and come into a shell. Slowly coming up. So we come from extension now. That was only part extension. We're going to go into bigger extensions after we do some more flexion. So I think we did this last day where we did a little playful roll into a little bit of a rollover. So I want you to be really free with this and not let yourself go too rigid and have like a Pilates intention. Try and be really playful. Obviously, if it doesn't feel good, you can just go back to just a little half roll back or whatever suits you best. Okay, so we're going to come back off the sit bones. We're going to balance our legs up and just hold them for a moment. And I want you to let go of anything that's gripping on. So for me, my hips are holding on. You might feel your hamstrings maybe are tight or even your tummy. So I kind of let my tummy fall away from my legs. So I kind of go more into my sacrum a little bit, kind of the weights in the sacrum. Okay? So we're just going to roll like a ball. So I want to melt the pelvis away from the legs and kind of let momentum take me back up. Okay, so I want you to kind of notice what's tensioning and what we can focus on to keep the length through that back body. So I just want to stay open through that curve. Just do one more. And then just come up, have a little breather. Okay, if that felt good, then you can carry on with me. You might find that this one actually feels potentially better, less restrictive. So now we're going to use the hands on the floor and we're going to go into a little kind of pseudo rollover. So we're going to balance, have the arms outstretched, and then you're going to roll and then come back up to balance. So the only difference is now I'm using the mat to continue the pelvis over. Instead of holding here, which can be quite limiting, I can melt into the mat and use that. Okay, now where we're going with this is up. Eventually, and I didn't do that very well. So where we want to go is up to stand. Okay, see what's possible, and then I would come back. Now this requires a lot of hip mechanics. Okay, don't worry if you're not there. Just keep working here and maybe just get your legs kind of underneath you. And then feel what you need to get that little bit of momentum to come up. Okay, don't worry because I know some of you won't be getting there. What also can be really helpful, just pause everyone, is actually having a little hand weight. So next week, because I could see some of you in the windows, we'll try and do this with a little bit of a weight. So we have a weight overhead, and then we come up to stand. So that wasn't very good. Okay, so it's having this real elastic in our hips to be able to go up into those places. Okay, so don't worry if you're not there. That's where we're hopefully heading, and then I want the, yay, we did it. So there's a lot of kind of deep squat work. We need to get into the hips to get kind of that propulsion up, okay? So we'll work on those. Let's come to our side. So I want to do, and I haven't done a lot of this because I don't find it super functional, but I thought it would be a nice way to kind of do a little bit more of a mobility exercise, kind of like a legs in strap, and then kind of make it a little bit more dynamic. So rest yourself where you feel comfortable, have a little roll side to side. Now this took me probably about 10 years to get so my leg didn't feel like a heavy log lifting, okay? To get the quality where actually your leg can float up and it feels light is really you being in your elastic, okay? It's allowing yourself to be soft enough that you're in the elastic of yourself and not in the muscles, okay? So if you do have a lot of tightness around certain areas of your body, then you might need to work on that to get the feeling of lightness as the legs go up. It's not a floppiness. I'm melting into the floor and I'm floating that leg, but it feels like my leg is deep in the hip and I'm able to lift it without a whole lot of tension going on. So maybe notice where in your body you hold the tension. Is it in the hamstrings? Is it in the quads? Is it around the knees? And do a little bit of myofascial release this week on that area. Maybe it's in the inner thighs, okay? Now I want you to go down, forward, up, and back. So you're gonna make a leg circle. But see if in that circle, you can keep it light. It's not overstretching. We're not trying to get the leg out of the socket. We're actually, if anything, trying to stir it in the socket. And notice which parts of the circle maybe start feeling a little bit heavier. So for me, as I go forward, it starts to feel heavy. As I go back, it feels a little bit lighter. Let's do one more in this direction. And then reverse. So you go back and up, forward and down. Back and up, stirring in the hip. Pelvis is calm. Okay, so there's no movement in the pelvis. Now I'm feeling all my little glute muscles working, but it's calm. One more. And then release. And just bring it up a little bit higher. Just let it relax. So this is, if we kept it calm, kind of all these little glute muscles should have been kind of waking up in that exercise. And then we're going to make it a little bit dynamic with the leg kick. So we're going to put the legs forward and nice and straight. And then we're going to press, and we still want it light. Now that's quite hard after I've worked it now. And then take it back, kick it forward. So find where you feel release. So as I go back here, I'm like, oh, it's so nice. This is a bit harder. For some of you, it might be the other way. Make sure as you're going back and forth, nothing moves here in your trunk. The pelvis is staying really neutral. 3, 2, 1, and release it back. Hopefully you had enough room doing that. Now, what's tricky about this one is because that side worked really well, when we do the other side, it's still kind of working, or it's still buzzing from the exercise we just did, okay? So try and just let yourself melt on the mat a little bit. Let that bottom side just calm down for a second. Kind of need to let it rest because it's still going, ah, ah, ah. Okay? And then just let that top leg lengthen. And try and get that floating feeling of your leg. Remember, this might not happen today, but this is where we're trying to aim to. So if you feel a lot of quads tightening, then do some myofascial release there. If it feels IT band, do a little bit more there. On this side, it definitely feels like my tightness is in my inner thighs. My other leg felt much lighter. This one feels like it weighs a ton. I'm going to try and keep it light as I go into the circles. So down, forward, up and back, down. Your range of movement is dictated by your pelvis. Okay, so it only goes as big as your pelvis stays neutral. Again, we're not trying to get the leg out of the socket. If anything, we're trying to get it more in the socket. Okay, reverse. Gosh, this leg feels so much more labored. Guys, this is where I want to start to get more elasticity on one side more than the other. So notice that for yourself. Woo, hamstrings are kicking in. One more. That felt like a totally different leg. Okay, legs in front. Take a moment. So the legs are nice and straight. The feet are slightly in front of the hip. We press down into the bottom leg and now energize it back and kick it forward. Try and make it as light as possible without it being floppy. So it's not floppy, it's tension, elastic, but light in the middle. And 3, 2, and 1. And release, let that leg come up. A little slap. Okay, so notice for yourself, how can we get that leg to feel really beautiful and light as it goes around? Okay, it's work in progress as well as our little stand-up roll-ups. Okay, so we go back to our front, and we're going to try and go into a little bit more of the intermediate advanced swan. We're going to break it down quite a lot so you can stop at any position. Okay, so first stage is just the legs. I want you to get that crease of your leg on the mat, the pubic bone on the mat, the head rested down. And we're going to melt into one leg so it goes down into the floor. And the other leg just brushes off the floor. So I'm not trying to overly reach it. It's almost like I just want to pick it up a little bit, let it feel lighter, but without going into the low back. Inhale back down. Exhale, melt the supporting leg down. Float the other leg up. So again, we want the leg to feel fairly light as it lifts, but connected to the back of the leg. So the glutes and the hamstrings will be taking it up. Try in your mind to think about the thigh picking up, not the foot. Okay, so the thigh picking up, not the foot. Exhale. So from the hip, through the thigh to the knee, and then down into the shin. Okay, now try and lift both. It's not going to be very big, and I'm trying to stay on that crease of the legs. Okay, so I'm not letting it go to the front of the hips. Okay, so both legs. Inhale down. You can see they're not lifting very far, but I'm working a lot. I want to make sure the tummy is connected. And down. You can feel those glutes working. But I'm really thinking of coming down from the front of the hip, not of trying to lift too high the legs. Okay, and then lower down. So just remember that feeling of both legs. Now we're going to come into our little grasshopper position like we did before. And we're going to peel through, nice and soft. Feel free to use some spirals. And we're going to come all the way up to full swan. Lengthening the front of you, lifting the pelvis up, so retracting the belly, opening the chest. Now, bending the elbows. As I come down through the pubic bone area and through the crease, I want both legs to just lift a little bit. So as the chest comes down, the legs will be lifted. Really try not to lead with your head. So I'm thinking belly lifting up, chest expanding, legs come down. And then my legs, my pelvis, my belly, my legs start to go up when the pelvis comes down, and then the chest, and then the head, okay? And then lower the legs. We come up through the body. Okay, if that feels too much, you can just do the half, come down, and then just do the double leg stretch, just really, really lightly. Okay, but it's like a seesaw. So my body goes up, and then as my body goes up, goes down, my legs gently go up. Okay, have a little breather. Now, the rock looks really hard, and if you put too much thought into it, then it looks like a flapping whale on the beach. But actually, if you keep that momentum going, so I'll show you, you guys can watch or you can listen. So I come up, now all I'm doing is letting go of my hands as I seesaw, and then catch. So my arms scoot forward, catch. But I've got to keep that shape. So you can try that, or you can keep going just doing a few of those little slow rocks. So what the key is to not let your head drop down, is to keep the shape, catch it. Keep the shape. I'm thinking of my legs when I go down. Legs and then body. One more, because then I need a little breather. So just take your arms over one way and your body over the other. So these are all kind of progressing into kind of the more advanced repertoire. But it's all just a sequence, right? So if we're closer to getting to that rock and we can really feel the slow rock starting to make shape, and we're not kind of clenching into our low back, then the little faster rock will come into place, I promise you. If it's not there today, that's okay. That's what this is about. It's progress. Progression. Okay, we're gonna come up and do a little bit of a mermaid. So we're gonna mobilize open the side body, and then we're gonna do a little kind of prep for coming into some supported work on our shoulder. And then we're gonna try and finish with the side bend and see where that goes, okay? So let's come up to kneeling. Let's feel connected all the way up through the center of the body. Feel, if you need to, in kneeling, a little bit of a pelvic tilt up. Okay, some of you might be tight in those hips, and then your pelvis is more here in an anterior tilt. So you might need to pick up the front of the pelvis, open through your hips a little bit more. Just make sure you're not clenching down your bum, because then that actually compresses you. Okay? So feel that nice little lift. We're going to take the arms out to the side and taking it over to one side and finding the ground, reaching the other arm. Now from here, I want you to feel you scoop your arm and really open up the fascia of the side of you. So where's your side fascia? The side of your calf, the side of your leg, the side of your waist, up through the side ribs. And actually with the arms, it kind of changes. It's kind of underneath the arms. Now to come up, you're going to push away. And then actually we can go the other way to get a nice little kind of inner thigh stretch. Okay? So out. Think of diving out more than down. Okay? So the head is going kind of away from your legs. Feel the center of you is really strong and lengthened. You're not just collapsed. Okay? Push and lift. Okay, now we have done this before, where actually we don't put this hand down. So we can scoop it in front, and now feel, can you lengthen that outer side and really reach it away, and then come up. So that has a very different feeling. Okay, and this is more of the plank, right? We've got to kind of hold that position out there rather than bending in half. But of course, if that feels too much, then don't do that one. Do the one where the hand goes down. So I've got the arm underneath, the other arm nice and long diagonally. Oh, change sides. Have a little moment to feel where your pelvis is, where it needs to be. Arms out and over. So we're going to touch the ground first. We're going to feel that band coming up the side calf, the side leg, the side waist, and kind of underneath your arm and into your baby finger. Lift. So one side might feel better, right? One side feels more open, more flexible, more connected. So this is my longer side. So this part of the exercise is going to feel a little bit easier. But when I go into the balance one, where the arm comes in front, this is going to be a little bit more challenging for me now. Okay, so we're not touching the floor if we can. We're going to bring that bottom arm across the waist and reach into that diagonal. If you can see yourself in your little camera, see if you could draw a straight line from your leg through your body to your arm. Let's do one more. Oh. And release it back up. Nice job. Okay, so that's waking up our sides that we're going to need. We're now going to get our shoulder kind of ready to weight bear. Okay, so we're going to come just into a little side plank. Now what often happens is either we're pushing too much away or we're sinking too far down. So we're going to do a bit of both. So we're going to let the body kind of sink down so the shoulder kind of elevates. Now don't overdo it because then it'll start to pinch into the upper trap. So I'm just letting it kind of come down a little bit. Then kind of pushing through the rib cage a little bit, come up and a little bit beyond. And I can feel then it kind of overstretches a little bit. It doesn't feel that nice. And then kind of somewhere in the middle, I'm perfectly balanced between the trunk, the shoulder blade. Okay? So going down, letting the ribs kind of fall, push a little bit into the forearm, and lift the rib cage and feel kind of that overstretch. Yeah? So it's kind of my waist kind of lifting up. And then there's a middle. Now, actually in the middle, my trunk is level on both sides. So here, my trunk is longer on the bottom side, shorter on the top. Then I come through the middle, even on both sides. And then if I go beyond, then the outer side is longer. Does that make sense? So we come down, we're kind of in the middle, and then we collapse, and that's too far. So try and find that middle zone where the waist is level, and you're just gonna lift your hips. And then come back down. Okay, so find that middle zone. You might have to keep checking, and also check that your shoulder hasn't come forward. Okay, so we need a little bit of external rotation backwards. And then I'm just gonna lift. Now my head doesn't know where it wants to be in space, so I'm just gonna put my hand behind my head. I can feel like it's going, where are you? And then just coming up. Good, one more. So feel where that waist is kind of level. And back, okay? So let's try the other side. So just take a second to get yourself on your side to feel where your shoulder is. Is it already collapsed? Can we kind of find that opening there? And then as we go down, the ribs kind of come down, the shoulder goes up. The ribs come up, the shoulder, the arm goes down, and then I go beyond, and then it's too much. If it's helpful to hold your hand underneath your rib cage, that's cool. So coming down, ribs to the floor, pushing up a little bit, and actually my top hip is kind of moving away. Now this side doesn't want to go as far as the other side, but maybe you felt that in your mermaid, that one side was a little bit more stretchy. And up and beyond. Okay, now find that neutral zone, okay, where the waist is level, and then lift. So it doesn't have to be a very big lift, right? And back. Lift. And back. One more. Lift. And back. Good. So let's go back to the other side. So this time, we're going to go onto the hand. Now it's the same principle, except I've got a long lever, okay? So if you prefer to do that little half kind of prep on your elbows and do what we just did, go for that. Now I've got my legs here in this position. The bottom leg is on the floor, the top leg is rotated out because I'm going to be pushing over my arm to come up, okay? So I'm on an angle here, I've got like an A shape underneath, but when I push through my legs and lift the hips, my body's going to go diving, okay? So we're going to take a breath in, we're going to think about where our waist is, and we're going to come to a straight line, level, and then come back down. Breathe in, breathe out, straight line level, lots of inner thighs. So if I push too much, it's not good, right? Don't want to go too much there right now. And then come back down. Feel like you're pushing the mat away, not down onto it. And one more. Zip those inner thighs. There's where I need to be. And back. It's helpful if you can see each other, see yourself, rather than perceive it. Okay, so let's take it to the other side. I should have said, I've got my hand kind of lined up with my hip. A shape here. So do that prep on your elbow if you're comfy there. Take a breath. And up and over. Inner thighs, waist nice and lengthened. And back. So both sides of the waist nice and neutral. If you have to move and adjust your hand, please do. There it is. And back. One more. And back. Good. Let's finish on our front. Full plank. If your wrists can handle it, take the knees back. Open collarbones. Strong through your center. A little bit of 12. Press those legs back, reaching those heels, reaching the head energy away. Nice, strong, connected all the way down the body, through to your feet. Lift your hips. Walk it back. Bend the knees. Slowly roll up. Come to the center. Just take a check-in. Lots of new stuff. Lots of challenging stuff. Just think it's a process. Yeah, we've all kind of been here at some point, and I was here on your journey back in the day, learning these exercises, feeling, why can't I do this? And then suddenly the pieces come into place and it feels really lovely. So do the homework, do the groundwork, get the releasing that you need in those hips, get the releasing through your waist, whatever was plaguing you today. If it was the roll up, sometimes it's hips, and we'll work on that. Awesome, thank you.